Hey, thanks for tuning in. I got a quick video for you guys today. It's going to be on the Minelab Manticore update. So the update's been out for a couple weeks now, and I've been kind of watching all the other content creators out there and talking to buddies and stuff that have done the update, trying to get feedback. I do this a little guarded because I take a lot of responsibility in the update. I was working on it for months, back and forth with Minelab quite a bit. Some of the features that they added in there are ideas that I had, so to speak, so I feel a lot of responsibility. I wanted to just see if there was anybody out there having any certain issues with it. So far, knock on wood, the update's been fantastic. I know on my end with my machine, it makes a huge difference. It's a far better machine with the update on there, no doubt about it. But I wanted to see what you guys thought. One thing I noticed is there's a lot of confusion out there about the stabilizer circuit and how stabilizer is related to stabilizer filter and what happens between the two. So I want to clear that up. Also, another thing I notice is people don't understand that when stabilizer is on and stabilizer filter is on or off, doesn't matter, but when the stabilizer circuit active, it's not always being triggered by what it's hearing in the ground. So what is it that will trigger the stabilizer to make it do what it does? And what are the things that stabilizer just ignores and the detector still sounds good on? We'll talk about all that and more, so stand by and we'll get started right now. All right, just like I said in the intro there, this is a video to talk to you about stabilizer and what it does, stabilizer filter, clear up the air a little bit on some confusion. I'm going to start by saying that there was a couple different content creators that noticed some weird things happening with stabilizer at low settings. Before we get into that, I just want to say stabilizer, what is it? Stabilizer itself is kind of different than stabilizer filter. I'm just talking about stabilizer right now, the top setting. What it does simply is degrade the audio, chops up the audio on something that the machine thinks could be iron. And remember that Minelab didn't even recommend to you that you use stabilizer at all unless you're in heavy iron and you're having trouble with falsing. So if you're in heavy iron, you're not having trouble with falsing, don't turn it on. Why? Why even deal with it? Leave it off. That way you don't lose any depth or VDI or anything else weird like that. Just leave it off. Leave it out of the circuit. If you're having trouble, you're in heavy iron and you're getting falsing, turn it on. Now, what was going on specifically in the videos I'm talking about was guys are running stabilizer at 1 or 2. And I found when I was working with this stabilizer circuit from the very beginning all the way up to the very end, the sweet spot to be 3 to 5, 3, 4, or 5. I never used 1 or 2 because it's just not practical. Stabilizer doesn't do what it needs to do effectively down at 1 or 2. I found it to be very effective at 3 through 5. And generally speaking, I run it at 4 almost every time that I use it. So these guys are running stabilizer at 1 or 2, and they were noticing some weird anomalies with volume and stuff. And I also want to tell you something else kind of up front. Stabilizer, the circuit itself, if you're one of those guys that likes to go from target to target to target and you're in a hurry and you just want stuff out of the ground and jump in your pouch, move on to the next signal, stabilizer may not be for you. Stabilizer needs a second to think. It needs a second to really analyze something. You're going to see a good example of that in a minute when I play this video for you. Got a live dig here on a coin. And we don't actually dig the coin, but we get to listen to the coin with stabilizer on and notice with the coin, the stabilizer is doing nothing. And then at the end, I say, watch this. I'm going to turn stabilizer filter on, and you're not going to hear any change in the audio at all with this coin. And when I did that, the first swing, the first couple swings I went over, it immediately dropped the volume down. But then, after about the third, fourth swing, it settled in, and the volume was fine again, and it wasn't affecting the coin. So stabilizer needs a second to think. It needs a second to analyze the signal and tell you what it needs to tell you, what it wants to tell you. Like I say, if you're in a hurry and you want to go from signal to signal, you don't want to deal with something that takes 5 swings, don't use it. But if you want to leave it on, run it, listen to it, trust it, give it a few swings to let it settle down and really tell you what it's going to tell you. That's basically where I'm at with that. So the guy that was having the trouble with the settings of 1 and 2, there's a couple people actually, I would just recommend to them that they run it at 3, 4, or 5 and try not to run it at 1 or 2 because it's just not practical. It doesn't do what it needs to do down there at those settings. So there's that. Now, what is stabilizer filter? We'll get to that a little bit more in the second video, but stabilizer filter in this first video, you'll notice, doesn't do anything to a coin. Like I said, it quickly dropped it down, but brought it back up on the first couple swings. So that's what it really does. it's not really connected to stabilizer. It's only really connected to stabilizer in one way. The relationship of stabilizer being on or off is dependent on whether or not filter could be on. So filter cannot be on at all unless stabilizer is on. Stabilizer is off at a setting of 0. If you bring stabilizer up to 1, 2, 3, 4, anything like that, it's considered to be on at that point and active. And then you can turn stabilizer filter on. So as a test, next time you get your Manticore out, put it at a stabilizer of 2, turn the filter on. When you turn stabilizer down to 0, you'll notice filter immediately shuts off. So they're only dependent on each other that way. Now stabilizer filter is sitting there waiting to do one thing to the audio. And that, well, two things. What it does is it lowers the volume of the audio. Filter does this. And it also thins out the audio. So lower the volume, that's pretty self-explanatory. What does thin out mean? So like on your old stereo in your car or your home, you had your low and your high or your bass and your treble. So what the engineers at Minelab did is they thinned out the audio by turning down the bass or the low and turning up the high or the treble. So it just got tinty and thin. Then they brought the volume down. So when stabilizer filter kicks in, so therefore when stabilizer's on, stabilizer filter kicks in, it will lower the volume of the object, of the target, and make it sound thin. So that's what stabilizer filter does, in addition to stabilizer, which does what? Stabilizer makes the audio sound crappy and choppy and undesirable. So now with stabilizer on and triggered on a piece of iron, it's going to sound choppy, crappy, and you don't want to dig it. A lot of times it'll knock it completely out, but it'll make it sound so bad you won't want to dig it. And when it's activated or triggered, this dormant circuit that's just sitting there waiting for Ferris, waiting for the right conditions to activate it, it will activate, chop the audio, at stabilizer filter down below, looks up and says, oh, you're on? Okay, then I'm going to lower the volume. I'm going to make it thin. That's what these two different things do. So they're just trying to, Minelab was trying to get you to be able to use this tool as another way, aside from, you know, variations in numbers on the VDI, and aside from turning 90 and it sounded like crap, now you got another tool, which is a stabilizer filter. So let's watch this first video real quick. This first video is a coin. We ended up digging it later. It was a zinc penny, but you know that up front. Here's me not knowing what it is, but check this out. All right, let's go to the stabilizer setting real quick. We'll toggle up till you get to the top up here where it says Ferris tones. Go to the right, over to stabilizer. It's off right now, and the filter's off. Stabilizer's off, filter's off. I want to swing over a target real quick and show you what it sounds like with it off. This is a pretty clean target. Look at the screen on this. Nice black dot right in the center. It's a 60, 61. I'm going to turn 90 degrees. Let's see what the machine does when I turn. So that's a no-brainer signal right there. So I'm going to turn stabilizer on to show you that stabilizer doesn't need to do anything with the circuitry on this signal, because this signal is not iron. If I turn this on and have stabilizers turn on all the way as high as it goes to 12, with the filter on, it's not going to ever activate this circuit. This circuit's going to do nothing to that signal because that signal is not iron. And even if it was iron, it would have to be significant iron with a lot of conductivity in it. So anyway, let's go ahead and swing over this again with this stabilizer maxed out. It's not changing the audio at all. The filter, just for a second, the filter kicked in, but then it corrected itself. And now, even though the stabilizer's maxed out with the filter on, the item sounds the same and looks the same, and there's no audio degradation going on. Okay, did you catch that little thing at the end there where we listened to the coin with the stabilizer filter on and the volume got quiet just for a second, but then it came back? That's what I was talking about earlier. All right, so the next thing I want to show you is kind of the opposite. So this time, the circuit thinks that it's Ferris. Let's listen to this next signal very carefully as I swing over it, and you can hear how choppy it is, and we'll turn the stabilizer on and watch what happens. Pay attention to all that stuff. But the machine is trying to tell me the stabilizer circuit is triggered. That dormant circuit that's just sitting there is now saying, whoa, whoa, wait a minute, I'm here. I hear what's going on. And when I turn stabilizer filter on, it's playing along as well, and it says, okay, I got you. I'm going to bring the volume down, thin it out. Let's check that out real quick. Here's another live dig for that example. Here we go. All right, I have a signal here that I wouldn't even dig, but I'm going to show you guys because it's completely contrary to the last signal we just dug, which was definitely not iron. This probably is iron. Let's see if Stabiliser will think that it's iron. See the numbers jumping all over the place? I'm going to turn Stabiliser on, and I'm going to do something. I'm just going to put it at a normal number, like say 5. But I want you to hear filter first. What does filter do? Listen to the volume of the signal with, I'm going to put it, actually I put this down to 1 just so it's on. But listen to the volume of the signal with filter off. Nice volume. Now we'll turn it on. Listen to the volume. All I did was turn the filter on and off. Let's turn it off again. And back on. Now listen how really quiet it gets when I bring this up with filter on. Listen how quiet it gets. So the machine is trying so hard, Stabiliser is trying so hard to tell you that this is iron, to don't dig it. Even with the filter off, with Stabiliser at 8, it's still trying to break it up so that you don't think it's good. Let's turn this back off again. No Stabiliser at all. Let's see what it sounds like again. That could fool somebody, so I just wanted to show you that Stabiliser needs iron before you can even hear it working. The signal we had earlier, that 6061, turned out to be a penny, a US penny. And when I turned 90 on it, when I swung over it, I got just rock solid audio, rock solid numbers. And this is completely different. If I turn 90 on this, it's going to go away. Let me turn 90. So it didn't go away, it just changed numbers completely. But I would have walked past this a long time ago, and so should you. But this is a good example of what Stabiliser does when it's on. So would I have stopped on this? Let me turn again. With Stabiliser on, there's just not enough there for me to want to dig that. All right, just for fun, I'm going to go ahead and dig this now to show you guys what it was that we were working with this whole time. Turn Stabiliser off, and I have the screen open so we can hear it pretty good now. All right, let's see what it is. There it is, a big old piece of iron. That's what it was, a big old thick piece of iron. I don't think it's a nail, but it's definitely a very significant piece of iron now. Actually, it is a square nail. You can see the top right there. There you go. Square nail. All right, let's wrap this video up. You got to see those 2 examples there. You saw there at the end that that was a piece of iron. It was a square nail. So let's kind of turn around to where we came from here. What is Stabiliser? All it literally does is degrade the audio on what it thinks is a nail. When do you use it? Should probably never use it if you don't have to. But if you do have to use it, the appropriate time would be in heavy iron where you're having problems with pulsing. And also a good setting would be like 3, 4, or 5. So I want to say at the very end of the video here, it's a personal preference of mine that I don't use Stabiliser filter at all. Not telling you that you shouldn't use it, but I'll tell you why I don't use it. So I don't use it because I come from a long lineage of Minelab machines, starting with the Explorer and the E-Track, the CTX 3030, and now the Manticore, that all had a feature where you could hear depth. And what do I mean by hear depth? If you had a CTX 3030 over here, and you listen to a quarter at 1 inch, and there's a setting on there called gain. If the gain was turned all the way up to 30, you listen to that quarter, and it's only 1 inch deep, it's going to be banging loud. You could take that same quarter and drop it down at 10 inches, swing over it, it's still going to be crazy banging loud because the gain was all the way up. Now, if you brought the gain down somewhere to the sweet spot around, like for me, it was like 19. I run the gain at 19. I could go into a park and listen for quiet quarter signals. So a quarter signal would be, let's say, a certain number of, like, let's say 46, 1246 on the CTX. You get that nice high tone and it sounds killer with a shallow quarter. But as you start moving that quarter down with the gain at 19, the quarter is still the same tone, but it's much quieter. So with headphones on, I would listen for the quiet high tones that repeated, and I get all jazzed and think, man, this could be a silver coin. And that's why I dug so many silver coins back in the day with the Explorer, the E-Track, the CTX, and now the Manticore, is because I can hear depth. So why would I want to run Stabiliser filter when my brain has been conditioned to deep equals good? And deep, the way I heard deep was a quiet signal. So when I hear a thinned out quiet tone coming in, I don't care if Stabiliser's on or not, right away my brain can't handle the fact that it's something bad, because to me it was always good. So that's just my own personal preference. I don't use Stabiliser filter because it really screws with my mind a little bit, and I can't shut it off. So I don't need it. I just use Stabiliser. It chops up enough for me. I turn 90, I look at the numbers, and I'm good. Stabiliser filter is there if you want to use it. And by the way, just so you know, on the Manticore, if you go into enhanced audio, especially if you use the rich theme, you can hear depth with this machine too. It does not have a setting like gain where you can adjust how much it quiets it down at depth, but in the enhanced audio profile, it will quiet it down at depth. So you can hear depth with this, and that's good for you because you could run the enhanced audio profile in a park and you could just go listen for the quiet high tones. Like on this machine, it'd be at 80, what is it, at 81 for a silver dime. And you're out there listening for 81s, and you get an 81 that's banging loud. You look down, it's 2 inches. You get an 81 that's repeating, but it's super quiet, and you look down and it's at 8 inches. You got a dime at 8 inches. So you could kind of cherry pick and go for the silver stuff. And that's kind of what we did through the whole lineage of all these machines. So anyway, hope I didn't ramble on too much there and deviate, but Stabiliser, we talked about what it is and cleared up some of the misconceptions. And I noticed that 99% of the videos I saw from all you guys and the comments that I saw from the rest of you that aren't content creators were good about the update. And I love the update. They did a great job on it. The machine is a whole new machine now, regardless of Stabiliser. Stabiliser and the red tonal ID, target ID, I mean, is just even better. But aside from those two things, it's just a much better machine anyway. So if you have any questions or comments, go down in the comment section down below. Leave me a comment or ask me a question down there. I do answer all the questions, and I try to answer all the comments as well. My email's down below in the description. Look forward to hearing from you guys. If you have anything you want to ask me or say about the machine, let me know what you think about the update. Do you have any issues that I didn't discuss here? Maybe talk about it down below, and if it's something significant, I might make another video for you on that. If not, I'll certainly answer it. So hope to hear from you down below. Thanks again for checking out the video. We'll catch up with you guys next time. Take care. Bye.